Om Akyanati Mranasya Chinansana Shanaka Sakshanitam Yena Tasmai Sigurave Nama Sitchitayam Anobistam Staptam Yena Bhutale Swamrapradam Yam Dadati Swapradantikam Vandeham Shiru Shiyudam Padakamanam Shirum Vaishnavam Sa Shirupam Jagajatam Saganaragnatam Tam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parjanastaitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagalita Shivishakam Kritam Shah He Krishna Karuna Sinadina Bandhajat Pate Gopesha Goprakanta Radhakanta Mastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vindavanashve Vishavana Satadevi Panamama Hripriya Ankha Kalta Visha Kripa Snivisha Patam Pavanvyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namo Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Charaswamiti Namine Snigdha Siddha Kanita Bhaknam Sarasaptaram Prabhupada Satapanam Nami Bhakti Charupanam Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauvani Pacharani Nirvishesha Niyabhava Paspachani Desatani Ila Prabhupada. I'm very happy to be with you today, that we are all assembled in this beautiful church, that very nice building. And we see that beautiful painting of Jesus Christ there with the 12 apostles. Jesus Christ actually said that what profited gaining the whole world if you lose your soul, if you lose the awareness of your soul. His purpose was to help others to develop love of God. And we are saying the same thing. We will find that the deeper essence of the Vedas is Sanatana Dharma, eternal religion. It are eternal, universal principles. It's Dharma. Dharma is what cannot be changed. It's like, Srila Prabhupada explains, like water. Water is wet. You cannot change it. It's always wet. Sweets, if we serve sweets, there should be sugar in it. Sugar should be sweet. Otherwise, it's not sugar. In the same way, that's the real meaning of Dharma. It's not an invented religion by humans. No, it's coming from the absolute platform, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So I will read today a verse from the Bhagavad Gita. The last 3 days we had seminars on understanding false evil and the working of false evil, and to purify us from this influence of false evil and come to us to our real evil by keeping us safe on the spiritual platform. So we heard all this philosophy and all these important points. But today we go into the practical field. We will study the life of someone who has done that, who got rid of false evil and became self-realized. Therefore, Krishna, in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, there Arjuna, after explaining the Ashtanga Yoga system, Arjuna said to Krishna, Krishna, I cannot do that. Controlling the mind is obstinate, very difficult to control. Controlling the mind is like trying to control the wind. You can't control the wind. Once a wind comes and you say, stop, stop. No, you cannot stop it, the wind. And Krishna says to Arjuna, yes, Arjuna, yato nishalatis. Yeah, the mind goes here and there, but you have always to bring it back. And you can do it with detachment and suitable practices, says. Then Arjuna said, okay, but you want me to become a yogi, but if I don't make it, what will be my future? Will I lose my material life and my spiritual life, everything? Like a cloud comes and the cloud by the wind is dispersed and it's gone? Krishna replies, no, Arjuna, one who does good is never overcome by evil. And then Krishna explains, one who had a short practice in the short yoga practice is still a bit a neophyte. Krishna says, if such a yogi does not make it, he goes first to the heavenly planets, enjoys there for 10,000 celestial years, and comes back to the earth. And then he takes birth in a rich family, so that he doesn't have to work too much. And if he wants, he can again practice spiritual life. But Krishna says, one with a long practice of yoga, a long practice. What's a long practice? If you chant 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna mantra, and you follow regulative principles, avoid sinful life, and you are serious in it, you do that for many years, you have a long practice. Such a yogi, Krishna says, he goes first to the... such a yogi, if he does not make it in this life, in his next life, he will take birth in a family of advanced transcendentalists. In the purport of that verse, Krishna, in the purport of that verse, Srila Prabhupada writes, I was in that case. My father, Monday, was a pure devotee. And also my spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, he was born in a family of a pure devotee. Who was this pure devotee? Bhaktivinoda Thakur, yes. That. And then Srila Prabhupada writes, and later we met each other through the transcendental system of Guru Parampara. That's what Srila Prabhupada writes. But then in the next verse, and that's a verse we will read today, text 43. Tatratam buddhisham yogam labhate pavadekam yatate satato bhuya samsiddha konandana. On taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life. And he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success. O son of God. Now, the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, King Bharat, who took his third birth in the family of a good Brahmin, is an example of a good birth for the revival of his previous transcendental consciousness. King Bharat was the emperor of the world, and since his time, this planet has been known among the demigods as Bharatvarsha. Formerly, it was known as Ilavrita Varsha. The emperor at an early age retired for spiritual perfection, but failed to achieve success. In his next life, he took birth in the family of a good Brahmin and was known as Jat Bharat, because he always remained secluded and did not talk to anyone. And later, he was discovered as the greatest transcendentalist by King Raugana. From his life, it is understood that the transcendental endeavors for the practice of yoga never go in vain. By the grace of the Lord, the transcendentalist gets repeated opportunities for complete perfection in Krishna consciousness. So, although we may not make it in one lifetime, although we should try, Krishna is very encouraging in Bhagavad Gita. In 241 he said, in this endeavor there is no diminution. That in the purport of that verse, Srila Prabhupada writes, if one has developed 2% Krishna consciousness in his life, he starts next life with 2%. And we hear it, how that goes. Of course, we are born in ignorance, but if you have practiced Bhakti Yoga in your previous life, you become automatically in the next life. Krishna says here that in the next verse it says he becomes automatically attracted to the yogic principles. He becomes automatically attracted to Krishna consciousness. These are the highest yogic principles. So, because Krishna promises in the Bhagavad Gita, Nami Bhakta Pranashyati. Krishna says to Arjuna, declare it boldly to everyone, that my devotee never perishes. Baladevidya Bhusha, he is one of our Vaishnava commentators on the Bhagavad Gita, and to bring the Bhagavad Gita more alive, he puts verses between the other verses. And he put the following verses between. Arjuna is saying to Krishna, you want me to declare it to everyone? But why are you not doing it yourself? Why are you asking me to do that? And Krishna replies, well, Krishna says, I'm from Mathura. And those from Mathura, they are known as cheaters. And no one will believe me. But Krishna says, they will never cheat those whom they love. And that is Krishna. If we love Krishna, develop this love for Krishna, we are not cheated by the material energy. Because this material energy is under the control of Krishna. So that's the sweetness of the commentaries of our acharyas. Very nice. But then, yes, we have here the story of Bharat Maharaj. Bharat in Hindi means India. It's the father of India, Bharat. and he was a great king. He followed the Vedic principles, Bharat Maharaj. And at a certain moment, it's the tradition when the son is grown up, then the Kshatriya king puts the son on the throne and goes to the forest to prepare for the next life, to meditate and to elevate his consciousness. That the Bharat went to the forest where he had a sadhana, a spiritual practice. His spiritual practice was different from what we do now, because we are in Kali Yuga. The suit, because Krishna said to Arjuna, you can control this mind by detachment and suitable practice. And this suitable practice is not Ashtanga Yoga. We cannot do that. That in previous ages they could do that. Maybe a few, Srila Prabhupada says, maybe a few can go to the Himalayas and do that, but we cannot do that. We are not qualified. Even Arjuna could not do it, he said. He was 10,000 times more qualified than all of us. This is suitable practice for us is the chanting of the holy names of Krishna. And deity worship. Deity worship was a process of previous age, Papara Yoga, but we can also do deity worship. But our primary practice is the chanting and then the hearing of the scriptures. But Bharat, he went to the forest and he was meditating that he did fire sacrifices and certain rituals. Was part of his sadhana, but his main practice was meditation on Krishna, and he mastered Ashtanga Yoga, and he came to the point of meditating. He was near to the level of Samadhi, that he went up to the level of Bhava. Bhava is just before love of Godhead. Thus, one is completely free from all one's simple reactions, and he meditated on Krishna with love. He felt Krishna in the heart. So he was sitting in the forest, and then one day there was a beautiful deer appeared before him. I had it also a few days ago in Halifax. In the morning, I was looking out of the window and I saw a beautiful deer, she deer with a baby. Beautiful to see. So that appeared also before Bharat. But suddenly, there was a big roar of a lion. Did someone of you ever see a lion in the zoo and roaring? Just seeing it so frightening. But the deer became so frightened that it jumped away, and while the deer jumped away, she gave birth to a baby deer. And it fell into the water. And Bharat saw this all before him. But Bharat had been a Kshatriya king. He came to the forest and he gave everything up, everything. And he had something to give up. He was the emperor of the whole world. He got everything practically, and he gave it all up. But when he saw this helpless deer, his Kshatriya spirit came up again. The quality of the Kshatriyas is Kshatriya, means giving protection against hurt. Chat means hurt. Kshatriya. That's a Kshatriya. He protects others. And there you have that helpless deer, and the water is going to wash it away, and it will be killed. So immediately he got it from the water and started to feed it and protect it. His false ego of being a king, a Kshatriya, came up again. It was not yet completely vanquished. He was still thinking, without my protection, that I must protect others. But that's okay. It's not that we don't have to feel compassion for others, that it's bad, but that it was bad what Bharat did. But what was bad is, what the problem was, he gave up his sadhana, his spiritual practice, and he became completely absorbed in the deer. But he was already pure, very elevated. And he was feeding the deer, he was playing with the deer. When he was going to get fruits and things for his rituals in the forest, he could not leave the deer behind, because an animal could come, and he was carrying the deer with him. That sometimes he was chastising the deer, and he became completely absorbed. His mind went practically mad. And he was still doing his rituals externally, but internally his attachment of the deer. He was always thinking of the deer. But then death does not wait for no man. And suddenly death came. And he was dying. And he didn't see the deer. He was in anxiety. He was dying, and suddenly, at the moment of death, the deer appeared before him. And what happened? He got the body of the deer in his next life. But by Krishna's mercy and by his spiritual elevation, even in the body of a deer, he was remembering his previous life. This was a special concession for Krishna. Why did Krishna make that possible? Because normally we don't remember our previous life. Why? Because he wanted Bharat Maharaj to learn something. That's Krishna's spiritual care. He wanted him to learn something. So what can we learn from Bharat Maharaj here? That he became so attached to the deer. Never give up your spiritual practice, whatever happens. Never do it. Because if you're interrupted, it's difficult to come up again to the standard. Don't do it, never. That you give up, you agree for taking birth again and die again out of compassion for someone else. No, that's inappropriate. He could have taken care of the deer, but continued his spiritual practice. But he did not. There's a weakness of heart. Although he was on a very high level of spiritual advancement. So then, in the body of the deer, he remembered his previous life. He remembered his previous life. And he went to the ashram where he was before. He was hearing from sages. And he waited till his body expired of a deer. And then he took a third birth. Srila Prabhupada says here, he took a third birth in the family of a good Brahmin. But But he took this third birth, and he remembered again his last two lives. Because of his elevated consciousness, he was already liberated. And he realized that if I become attached to something in this world, I'm risking to go to the same thing. I want to become a deer animal. And he was always thinking in his heart of Krishna. Internally, he was always meditating on Krishna. And externally, he was presenting him as a dumb man. And his father tried to educate him, but he didn't speak. And his father wanted to make him a Brahmin, because he was born in a Brahmin family. And he was teaching him so many things to become a Brahmin, but Bharat did just the opposite. He didn't want to do anything, to have anything to do with his brothers, with his sisters, with his father, with his so-called family. He knew, I've come to millions of births, and I've been attached millions of times to families, but now it's finished. I will become attached to Krishna only in my heart. And he became very spiritually advanced. He was always practically in love of God. But then his father became frustrated, and finally his father and mother passed away, and his brother said, this person is completely useless. Because although they were educated as Brahmins, they didn't have any clue of what spiritual life means. You see that many times. It's not that one is born in a Brahmin family, that one knows something about spiritual life. No, one must first develop the qualities of a Brahmana. That Bharat had all these qualities. So one time because he was eating any food that he got, sometimes tasteless, sometimes nice. He was just eating, and he looked very healthy and very strong. So they put him in charge of a field where crops were growing, and his service was to keep the deer and all the animals away, that they would not eat the crops. And he was sitting there the whole day, meditating on Krishna within his heart. He was always feeling in his heart, Krishna in his heart, so he was never alone. But then King Raugana, the king of the state of Savira, he was carried in a palanquin with 4 Sudra carriers. And King Raugana, he was the king of the state of Savira. At that time, if you have Delhi, and under Delhi you have an horizontal line over the map of India, all the north was at that time the state of Savira, so it was a powerful king. These Kshatriyas were powerful people. Sometimes Kshatriyas would go to the forest. And Srila Prabhupada writes, and he wrote that in 1961 or something, when he was writing the first canto of the Bhagavatam. He said, at that time, he said, even 25 years ago, he said, in Jaipur, the Kshatriyas, one Kshatriya every year would go to the forest to fight with a tiger without any weapons, with his hand. He would fight with a tiger. These are powerful people. And King Rogan was like that. He had a real false ego of a Kshatriya. Kshatriya thinks himself, Ishvara in Bhagavad Gita said, as to control. That's also in Bhagavad Gita, the Pandavas, they had to rule something. And Duryodhana said, I will not give them even the land of the size of a pin drop. But yes, but it was carried in a palanquin, and to carry a palanquin, I don't know, some of you may have done it in Mayapur, it's not easy. You have to follow all the same path, the same step, that you must be in harmony, and it's heavy. It's such a king, carrying a king, it's a heavy thing. And one of the 4 carriers became ill and had to be replaced, and the 3 other carriers were searching for a candidate for replacement. And then they saw Bharat sitting, meditating on his field. And they were looking at him, and he looked very strong, and he was spiritually effulgent. And he had a Brahman thread, which was black. And yes, they brought him to carry the palanquin. So he didn't say anything, but Chadbharat was thinking, if I carry it, then I'm depleting my impious, the reactions of my impious actions in my previous life. So that's good. So I agreed to carry it. But when he was carrying it, he saw ants on the ground, and he didn't want to trample on them. He was afraid to become implicated again. So he was avoiding the ants by stepping. Of course, the other 3 carriers of the palanquin were Sudras, and they didn't care for that. By that, there was a disharmony. If it would have 4 Sudras, they don't care, they are in harmony. But then Chad he was avoiding the ants. And so the palanquin went up and down. And King Rogana, he ordered the palanquin carriers, carry the palanquin properly. But then Chadbharat continued to avoid the ants. And then when King Rogana spoke again, all these 3 Sudra carriers were very afraid, because such a king can decide every moment to take your life. And they started to explain to the king, it's this new one, it's not us. That it's yeah. So, and then King Rogana started to address Chadbharat very harshly. He said, I will punish you very severely. Do you know who I am? I'm the Emperor of Savira. And he was insulting Chadbharat. And then what did Chadbharat do? He started to speak for the first time in his life. He started to speak to King Rogana and said, you are thinking yourself a king. No, you are a king riding in a palace. Your previous life, you were a warming stone. That you went to so many forms of life. But now you think yourself a king, but soon you are out of this body. I think King Raugana, he realized this is a saintly person. And King Raugana was a real Kshatriya. A real Kshatriya follows the advice of the Brahmins, and they are afraid of the Brahmins. The Brahmins, especially in these previous ages, had the power to curse. And they were very much afraid of it. But then King Raugana, he poses a few questions from which appears that he did not understand anything of spiritual life. But King Raugana, Jan Bharat, when King Raugana insulted him, a feeling in the mind came of being harshly addressed. Harshly addressed. That's in a verse. Sukadev Goswami explains that. And he gives us an insight of the inner consciousness of such a pure devotee. So that pain of feeling harshly addressed came into the mind. And by spiritual power, he pushed that feeling out of his mind. Can someone do that? He pushed that out. And his mind became filled with compassion for King Raugana and started to give him spiritual instructions. And these instructions are very nice. You can read them in chapter 11 and 12 of the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam. So it's not that we must act as Jad Bharat. We cannot imitate that. He was on the liberated platform. That Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, if you are not on the liberated platform, you must do your duties for other sacrifice for Krishna. That. But we see in these 3 lives, after the 3rd life, he went back to the spiritual world. Our Krishna had a plan for him to take care of him, to take care of his spiritual life, so that he should learn his lesson. So in the first life of Bharat Maharaj, he followed the Vedic principles, and he was on his way to make it practically in one lifetime, because on the level of bhava, normally you don't come back. You don't come back from bhava. That's in Bhagavad Gita. And one is that stage, but Krishna made him come back to give us a warning. First lesson to learn for all of us today. You have a sadhana, spiritual sadhana, that's required. Follow principles, never give it up. Make it a priority in your life. And don't make something else the priority. Everything else should be on the 2nd place in your life. If you want to go back to the spiritual world, spiritual life should come first. So don't live to work. Work to live. To have a simple life. And have spiritual practice. That comes first. And he learned that. He learned that by being punished, by being in the body of a deer. And but his consciousness was elevated. Practically love of God. And he retained that consciousness. That didn't come down. In the body of the deer, he had still this elevated consciousness. So it's technically not a fall down. It's Krishna who was teaching him as a lesson, And that lesson is for us to learn. That he had given that example. We have to learn not to give up our spiritual practice, priority. The second thing to learn, he became Jad Bharat. Jad Bharat, and he was always inward, thinking of Krishna. Whatever what he did. He was really what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the highest yogi. Yoginam apasarvanam matyanam atmam shadvat shadabha pachate yomam mate yuktatama mataha. I'm the highest yogi. The highest yogi is, Krishna says, who is in love united with me within the heart. So we have to learn to keep us on the spiritual platform. And what is this first practice we have to learn? What is the first instruction Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita? After he explains to Arjuna, your body's changes. Denos minchadade gamam chavnam charata tate antarapratya tiyastratranamchati. So you must become a Dhira, Arjuna. Your body changes, but you are not the body. You are in the body, and the body changes. Boyhood, youth, adolescence, adult, middle age, old age, dying. You must tolerate all this. Tolerance. And Srila Prabhupada writes, this is the quality of Jad Bharat. He was a Paramahamsa. And a Paramahamsa follows Krishna in Krishna's instruction in Bhagavad Gita. One should tolerate heat or cold, happiness or distress. Yamina Vyatatanti Purusham Purushashava Samadukha Sakamdiram Somitat Parakalpate. When we can tolerate, Arjuna, this happiness and distress, become equal towards it, he is ready for liberation, ready to enter the spiritual platform. And he was on the spiritual platform that he didn't care for the external. Internally, he was always with Krishna. So that's the platform beyond liberation. So we have first to purify our heart. Therefore, in his previous life, he purified his heart by doing Ashtanga Yoga. That was a process in that age. They were much more qualified. We cannot do that. We are purifying our heart by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, by taking prasad and so on, and hearing about Krishna. So first purification. And if we are purified, then we can always think of Krishna. Of course, we can try to do that before, but if our heart is not pure, our mind will not allow it. Will not allow it. So, do we have also to take 3 birds as Jad Bharat? No. There are 3 ways of learning. I explained that a few days ago. You can learn only by hearing. Hearing that stealing is bad, and you say, I'm not doing it. Okay. That's first class. Second class is, I hear that stealing is bad, but I'm not completely convinced. I first have to see someone arrested for theft and say, okay, I will not do it. And third class is that I decide, I'm hearing that stealing is bad. I see someone arrested. but I have to be honest myself before learning. So Bharat had to go to the experience to learn. He did not learn by hearing alone. So we can only chant Hare Krishna, and we don't want to hear the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna say, okay, but then I have to teach you in another way, a few lifetimes, and you will learn. That's the long way. If you want to do it in one lifetime, we must hear about Krishna and hear the Bhagavatam. It is not only in the Bhagavatam, there are different, in the Bhagavad Purana, there are different stories of devotees who learned in different ways. We have the story of Ajamil. He had also to learn in a different way. But by hearing all this, in association of devotees, we get it. We say, I'm not going to do that. And that's first class. Therefore, we must hear to be convinced and to understand the right path from a spiritual master. And then we can develop the right internal mind, the correct internal mind. And then we can avoid being deviated from whatever in this world. So that is the third lesson we should learn from this pastime. So never give up your practice so that you become purified. And hear about Krishna. And remember, so keep yourself safe on the spiritual platform. Take shelter of Krishna in your heart. Think of Krishna. Whatever. And that is what we discussed today in Bhakti Shastri. Krishna says of the end of the Bhagavad Gita, he gives Arjuna two choices. That's 1858. 58, no. So in 57 he said, in all activities just depend on me and work always under my protection. We have to work under Krishna's protection. That Srila Prabhupada says we should think ourselves that, oh, Krishna is engaging me in this service. So I must do this service for Krishna. I'm the servant of Krishna. We should always think like that. Working for Krishna. Means working for Krishna means not thinking you are the proprietor of something. That nirmamo and nirasir. One should not think himself the enjoyer. No, I want to give enjoyment to Krishna. That's working under Krishna's protection. Follow his instructions in Bhagavad Gita. And then, if you work under Krishna's protection, you are always conscious of him, because you are doing it for him. So Krishna says, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. And if you do not work in such a consciousness and act to false ego, thinking you are the body and the enjoyer in this world, then you will not hear me. You will be lost. That is our choice. So Krishna says then to Arjuna a few verses later that, and that's interesting. Yeah. Itite jnana akhyatam bhuyataram maya vimshisheta sheshana yaktashasi tatak kuru. I've explained to you all this knowledge, still more confidential. Deliberate on this and do what you wish to do. It's up to us. Do what you wish to do. Some devotees said, that's an instruction that I follow always from Bhagavad Gita. Do what you wish to do. But I like that most. But the thing is, do we wish to follow Krishna's instructions or not? It's up to us to decide. But Krishna says, if you are not working on my protection, you will be lost. If you work on my protection, ma chucha, no worry. I take you back to the spiritual world. Thank you very much. Any questions?
No questions?
Yes.
One question I have, like, when you said that we have to, like, judge purpose on how platform, and we are still practicing, and this will take a lot of time, when we don't know when we reach to that platform of how. But what I feel sometimes, like, the sadhana which we do, correct, that becomes mechanical, which acts as a hindrance, it will help, and it does not allow us to reach to that platform of how. So, what's your suggestion, like, how we can improve our sadhana so that we can gradually progress in that?
Thank you. That's an important question. How can we improve our sadhana and not be mechanical? That's the question. Devotional service. 2 words. Devotion, service. Service is the external, the activity. We chant Hare Krishna and the lips move. That internal is the devotion, is the consciousness which should be fixed on Krishna. We are the spirit soul. The spirit soul is a cause of consciousness. We are the consciousness. Krishna says in 2:17 Bhagavad Gita, that which pervades the entire body is indestructible. And in 13:34 he says that that which pervades the whole body is consciousness coming from the soul. But that we are the consciousness. Krishna explains also we are not the doer. We are doing things with our consciousness and our desire. The rest is done by material nature. So if we devotion activities means acting with the soul, that was a devotee that one devotee said to another, you were not there in the Bhagavatam class this morning. And the other devotee said, yes, I was there. I was sitting there at the back. And the other devotee said, yes, I saw your body, but I saw your mind was somewhere else. You were not there. If we chant Hare Krishna and we do it mechanically, we are not chanting. The lips are moving, that's all. We must be there. Therefore, it is the 10th offense against the holy name. It's also, well, the 11th. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Because it's not nice, because we are chanting, Krishna comes, and we don't give attention to him. The mind is doing something else. It's offensive. So we have to train ourselves when we do japa to fix our mind on Krishna. It's a real yoga practice. And yato nishaltis, the mind wanders. You have to bring it back again, Krishna says, again and again. But that can become a big fight. Because sometimes before you know, the mind is wandering, you are already in the second round. But we must really bring it back. But then it becomes like a fight. I'm going to control my mind. And becomes very intense. But that's also not the solution. What's a solution? The solution is that we should put all our affection and love for Krishna in the chanting. And the more of that affection you put, you may not have the big love, but whatever you have, you put in it, then the control of the mind becomes easy. So that's what my Guru Maharaj always said. So it's simple for the simple. And someone asked Bhakti Maharaj, what's the meaning of chanting Hare Krishna? And he said, chanting Hare Krishna means saying to Krishna, I love you. That's simple. That simple thing we cannot do, and it's unfortunate. Just trying to put our love in it. Because this mechanical way of trying to control the mind, it's too strenuous, very difficult. Of course, we should be careful, but therefore when we chant, you must be rested in the moment. You must get up early and be rested. That means early to bed. If you do that, mostly I'm going to bed at sometimes 7:30 and getting up at 2 o'clock. But I make sure I'm rested. And then you can chant, put your attention, the mind is strong. It's early in the morning, it's peaceful. You didn't overeat previous night. So it's all a practice. And it's also praying to Krishna's mercy. Because why we can't focus? We don't take shelter of Krishna, that's the point. Because chanting is taking shelter of Krishna. And why don't we take shelter? Because we are in illusion. Think everything is all right. But no, you are in great difficulty in this world. Material nature may finish your body at every moment. Every moment something can happen in this world. Every moment the situation can change drastically. A car accident is that. So that means if you understand that, we become humble. We depend on Krishna. And we say to Krishna, I'm sorry, I'm such a stupid soul. Please forgive me. Please help me to come out of this. I'm now taking shelter of you. That is required. Chanting like a child for his mother. We have to learn that kind of chanting, Srila Prabhupada said. But to learn that, we must create this awareness, and that's by hearing about Krishna. Hearing about so many devotees who went through experiences in the Bhagavatam, an association with advanced devotees, only by their influence, our chanting will improve. There are a few points I can make. Does that help? Okay, thank you. Something else?
And the last question.
Yes,
As far as you talking about the effectiveness of hearing, it doesn't guarantee the soft side of it, did bring that. For some of us, we put that in place so we will know that we're progressing devotion into the dance. If we don't have a luxury of doing that for yourself, it's going to help us age how we're progressing. Is there anything internal that you, I mean, you know, some questions that say you want to understand something, when you can learn, then teach it yourself and teach it others. But as we go into the progress, we want to use the best for the good value for us to know that something's really progressing.
To explain that to Srila Vyasadeva, Narada Muni told the story of his previous life. He was, in his previous life, he was Upavarana. He was a Gandharva, kind of demigod. And he was an enjoyer, kind of heavenly playboy. He had many girlfriends, and they were chanting sensual songs about love and so on. And Srila Prabhupada said he was chanting cinema songs. And he came in the association of, he went to a festival, a Sankirtan festival. But Sankirtan festivals are meant to glorify Krishna, the Supreme Lord. But still, he was there with all his girlfriends. He was chanting his cinema songs, glorifying the demigods. And all the sages became angry. And they cursed him to become a Sudra in his next life, a human. Of course, the curse of a holy person is always beneficial. And he took birth in his previous life, Narada Muni said, as the son of a maidservant. But this maidservant was serving Bhaktivedantas, great souls who were not traveling during the Chaturmasya 4 months. And he was serving them humbly. And he was hearing from them the Bhagavatam about Krishna. He was hearing from them 4 months. He was 5 years old. And after 4 months of hearing, he became sober. He didn't want to play like the other people, boys from his age, no interest. He became very grave. And he understood his situation. He developed all qualities of a liberated person just by hearing. And these qualities, they are described in Bhagavad Gita, that in chapter 12, from verse 14 till 20, Krishna gives a whole list of spiritual qualities, starting with Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam Maitra Karuna Ivasha. Such a person is non-envious from all other living beings. Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam is equal to happiness and distress. That's peaceful, that it doesn't worry about its maintenance. Krishna protects him. So these are all qualities. There's a whole list, 6 verses with nothing else than qualities. You can see and check, that's a checklist if we are making spiritual advancement. Also in the 13th chapter, Krishna explains the transcendental qualities of one who is advanced. 8 to 12, 20 items of knowledge. One understands the evil of birth and death. One accepts a spiritual master. One engages in devotional service. That one sees the evil of being too much attached to family life. That and so many other qualities. But in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna in the second chapter asked Krishna, what are the qualities of a sthita prajna, one who is fixed in transcendence? And Krishna gives a whole list, many verses with qualities. He has no material desires, that is always peaceful, situated, meditating on Krishna. And then in the 14th chapter, Arjuna asks a similar question. What are the qualities of someone who has transcended the modes of nature, who is on the transcendental platform? And that's verses 14. And Krishna says, he who does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they are present, or long for them when they disappear, is unwavering and undisturbed to all reactions of the material qualities. He remains neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active. He's situated in the self and regards happiness and distress as the same, because that's for the body, not for the soul. For him, earth, stone, a piece of gold is all the same. The desirable or undesirable of the body is also the same. One is praised or blamed, he doesn't care. He's not interested in any of this. In honor or dishonor, the same. Friend of enemy, has no friends or enemies on the material platform. That he has affection for everyone, because everyone is a part of Krishna. He has renounced all material activities. So many qualities, lists where we can check in Bhagavad Gita what it means to be transcendentally situated, or being on the path. But to develop these qualities, you must first recognize them in others and find persons who are on that platform. And you have to learn, you have to ask them, you are on that platform, how have you come to that platform? What did you do? And you associate with them. That's what I did. I traveled 15 years, 3 months every year. I traveled with Prahlad Maharaj. And I saw how he lived as a saintly person. And I followed him. That's what I did. And we can also do that. And of course, some are more advanced than others. But that's the instruction my Guru Maharaj gave me. You take shelter of everyone who is more advanced than you. You learn from them. That's very important. That's sadhu sangam. And it's by this association that it comes. Chanting is okay, sadhana is okay, reading is okay, but you don't learn it just from books. You need association of those who are advanced and see how they have these qualities and how they have developed, and learn from them. Therefore, association is very important. If you do not associate with saintly person, then the material energy will overwhelm you. And the material energy, Krishna says, is Mama Maya Durajaya. Very difficult to overcome. But then Yemam Prabhachante, but one voice has surrendered unto me, Krishna says, Maya Medam Tarantite. Easily to overcome material nature. But that surrender you have to learn in the practice from those who do it. And therefore, spiritual education is required, an association with a saintly person. And yes, our Mangalananda Prabhu has mentioned here we have classes on japa, then Bhakti Maharaj will speak, participate in these things. That will really help you. That, and we need to have more of these initiatives, so that we can. We have become devotees, but Srila Prabhupada said you have to boil the milk and make sure you are advancing. So that's little comment from my part. I hope that helps you to reflect on it. Good. Thank you very much. Shantara Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Premanand.